The Institute for Race Relations, or ISS, released a report about the cost of the VIP protection in South Africa. The report revealed that the National Treasury will spend just under 3 billion rand guarding high-ranking officials in 2018-2019 financial year. This VIP protection expenditure includes presidential protection services, static and mobile security, as well as the securing of chartered flights. Gareth Van Onselen, head of politics and governance at the IRR, who authored this report, is here to expand on it for us this morning. Good morning to you, Gareth. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the budget on its own has increased by 700 million, which is, of course, close to 1 billion rand. Is there an explanation for all of this?
Well, one of the problems is that so much to do with VIP protection, how it works, what outcomes it delivers, and how much it costs is hidden away in reports and not properly reported on. So we don't have a full explanation for why these increases happen year on year, again and again, without explanation. And the problem is that what outcomes there are available in these reports, in other words, the number of trips that VIP protectors accompany high-ranking politicians on and that kind of thing, appear to be stable. They aren't increasing. And yet the amount that's allocated to VIP protection is increasing every year.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers once again. So this 2.6 billion rand is compared with the 2000-2001 period when it actually stood at 234 million. That is about 17 years ago, of course.
Yes.
There is no explanation to all of this, but is it justifiable?
Well, there is a broad structural explanation insofar as they have professionalized the VIP services. Prior to 2000, there were a whole lot of provincial departments that were in charge of VIP protection. They then amalgamated them into a national unit, and they incorporated the Presidential Protection Unit, which was a standalone item, into VIP protection. But the consequences of that is that we don't know how much, for example, the Presidential Protection Unit now spends on protection, because it's hidden within this broader body, the VIP protection services, and it doesn't have a standalone budget, which is not presented in any national budget or local budget in the Department of Police, for example. So there are a lot of hidden costs, a lot of mystery, and a lot of unaccountability in this.
Yeah, we don't even know as to on what basis are flights chartered for them, for the president as well.
Yes, well, flights are another important element of it. In fact, VIP Protection Service cuts across 3 portfolios. There's the police department, which houses the main VIP Protection Services unit. There's the Defence Force, which is responsible for chartered flights, as you've pointed out. And we don't know very much about how much those flights cost. There was an estimated 100 million set aside for flights just for President Jacob Zuma last year, but we don't know across the Deputy Presidency, the Minister of Defence, how much those flights cost.
Yeah.
And then there's the State Security Services, which vets VIPs to see whether they qualify or not.
But why is everything kept so confidential? Is it because of security measures, maybe?
It is. Well, this is the answer that you get from the state, is because you're dealing with the protection of individuals, this information is very sensitive, and obviously they have to keep it behind closed doors and entrusted to only a few people. But if you look at the intelligence services, which guards very sensitive material, they do meet in Parliament. They have to account for the expenditure, only it's done behind closed doors. It's not to the public. But the police department doesn't even bother to do that. It won't report to Parliament even behind closed doors, and that's the real problem.
But seeing now that, Gareth, everything is sort of kept secret and confidential, I know that you propose that Parliament should actually look into this matter and demand answers. Do you somehow feel there's something being hidden from us here?
There's definitely something being hidden. What that is, I don't know. I couldn't say. But we don't have a full explanation for how the VIP services are structured, who they report to, how their budget is determined, why there are the kind of increases that we've seen. And these are questions that Parliament should be charged with. But more importantly, there seem to be big, serious breaches of VIP protection. For example, we know for a fact, because former President Zuma is on record as saying that there was an attempted assassination on his life. VIP protection services are responsible for his protection. No one seems to have been held to account for that breach in security. Parliament hasn't called VIP protection services to explain. So there are a whole lot of areas in which it needs to intervene.
Yeah. But if we were to compare our situation here at home with the rest of other countries, of course, is it different? Do we know in other countries as to how everything is operated and the budget means of everything?
Well, it's different in a number of respects. First of all, we have an exceptionally large executive, which means there are more VIP protection services because there are just more members to protect. Secondly, there is a difference with regards to accountability. There might be a same kind of mirroring with regards to the number of protection officers that are assigned to people in, say, countries like America, but they do have to account to the Senate and the relevant committee on how they spend that money and exactly what their outcomes are, and that is the difference between us and them.
All right. So we do know, of course, that there are some political parties who are currently proposing to President Cyril Ramaphosa that the cabinet should be cut. So if that happens, that will make a difference in terms of the money that is being spent on these individuals, right?
Yes, certainly. And I think that is one of President Cyril Ramaphosa's response to this, is he said that he is aware of the problem with the amount that's spent on VIP security and aware of the Institute's report, but he's also looking to downsize the executive, and he could kill two birds with one stone, because on the one hand, if you reduce the size of the executive, obviously you reduce the size of the protection that's allocated to it. So I think that will be his strategy.
And everything goes back to taxpayers, doesn't it? And if one looks at a huge disparity between the socio-economic conditions and the money that's being spent on protecting officials, are there any alternatives?
Well, there certainly are alternatives. I mean, for one, you don't have to protect every member of the executive. It makes sense for the president to have protection. It makes sense for the minister of police or any portfolio where you might have to encounter, difficult circumstances on the ground. But the minister of police, for example, of sport, doesn't need a VIP protection service. It's not a dangerous portfolio. And I think a lot of the executive members simply indulge the service because it provides them with free travel and sort of the status of having a bodyguard around them all the time.
All right. So as it is now, do we provide protection for foreign dignitaries?
Yes, we certainly do. We provide protection for foreign dignitaries, and that is, but once again, we're not sure exactly how that's assigned. Yeah. Some is assigned via the general VIP protection services, some via the presidential protection services, but yes, the answer is we certainly do.
So that is, of course, adding on to the numbers as well.
It is a big contributing cost,
yes. It is. So, the report, of course, as I said on my introduction, it came out earlier this week. I think it was in March. Has it been provided to government? Is government aware of this report, maybe just on an advisory level?
The presidency is certainly aware of the report, and the presidency spokesperson has said on record that they are studying it, but we've yet to see any formal response. I don't think that they will put out a direct response to the report, but I think you'll hopefully see it addressed in things like the medium-term budget policy statement, which is coming up to the end of the year, which will be an indication as to whether they are drawing back on these kind of numbers or continuing to increase.
What basically are you looking for in terms of the response? What do you think the president should actually say in his response?
Right. Well, first of all, I think it's actually the departments that need to take control. So hopefully this would be something that would be addressed in cabinet. The Minister of Police would provide more accountable outcomes when it comes to the annual report and reporting to Parliament. The Minister of Finance will provide a stricter budget which relies on reportable outcomes and which is not excessive. And the presidency and the president leads by example by cutting back on the huge number of public protectors that, of private protectors that President Zuma had.
All right. No, Gareth, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Many thanks. Gareth Van Onselen, Head of Politics and Governance at the Institute for Race Relations, talking to us about the money that we spend here at home on VIP protection. You may want to weigh in on the discussion at Morning Live SABC. It is our Twitter handle. What do you think and what do you make of all the numbers? All right. We're taking a quick ad break.